Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll be taking verbal POIs. Okay, so it seems that OG asks us, what is a county without people? However, we think the real question in this debate is what is a country without stability? So first, before I move on to my case, time for some rebuttals. So firstly, um, government has actually mentioned about that they care about the minority people. They care that people have a voice. And we are not denying that people have the right to vote. We vote every 4 years. There are things like nominated member of parliament society today that represents the everyday man on the street. And we don't, and another thing is that about the minority case, they're saying that they're representing the minority. We don't think it's fair to say that the minority is all being disregarded in society today. And also, I'm pretty sure this is a wash, as the minority never really got cared for anyway. No matter what decision you make, there will always be a minority. Even in this referendum, there will still be a minority case. So how are you listening up for the minority anyways? Now, onto my main points. So, firstly, what is the most important thing in today's debate? Which side of the house achieves better governance, which overall achieves stability, not just in the country, but also globally? So, onto my first point on how people don't know what's best for them. While this is contrary to what government has mentioned on how government should care about what people want for the country, I like to say that we don't think people know what's best for them, and this is exactly the reason why there is a government. This is exactly the reason why we need to elect people, because we know, and everyone has already elected for them, that they know what to do with the country. They know how to make decisions for the country. No, thank you. And another thing is that this whole referendum thing is a binding, meaning it has once voted, it's a law. This makes it extremely dangerous. Take note that they can have a referendum on any issue. Do you know how dangerous this is? If let's say these people in an emotionally like vulnerable situation, let's say COVID now, let's take an example of the US. A lot of people in the US don't want to wear masks during COVID. If you allow there to be a referendum and over 50% of people say no, we will not wear masks, it's forbidden to wear a mask during COVID, and the government has to listen to that, isn't that kind of a stupid decision for the government to make? Because all these people are emotionally charged. They are narrow sighted, and they don't realize sometimes that there will be large impacts onto society. Another thing is that once all these decisions are made, which actually brings me to my next point about social unrest. So when all these decisions are made, and I'm going to continue using the point on the mask, people are going to look at these countries who make the decisions based on these referendums, and they're going to think, wow, isn't this country kind of stupid? The government can't do its job. The whole role of a government is to make decisions for its people. So why are the people making decisions? No, thank you. Why are the people making decisions for the government? It just doesn't make sense. The whole reason why people probably want to make all this referendum is because they're discontented with their place. And because of this, they may make stupid decisions. If like stupid decisions, let's say that, oh, starting from, let's say, next year, the government will ban, there'll be like a high pay raise suddenly, like over like 20%, or the government has to give free housing for everybody and everybody agrees. Isn't that a major problem for the government? And all these and all in the government, if you allow all these stupid decisions to, let's say, be allowed, and they make this decision very public, which it probably will be, all these countries are going to look at the government and say, why are they doing this? If let's say maybe the people say, I want to have tax sanctions on some other country, won't this then cause a lot of political unrest between two countries? And this is all because majority of the people made the decision for the government. It's not necessarily that the people know what's best for them, because they don't. It's always the government that knows more about politics, that knows more about what is best for their country and political relations in order to make all these decisions. And another thing is that referendums take a long time to proceed. Imagine, let's say, I'm going to take example of Singapore. We have over 4 million citizens. If we have to ensure that all 4 million citizens vote for one issue, won't that take a very long time to enact? It will take extremely long time. What about during emergencies, when all these people still have to take a long time to vote that I want this to be enacted? It would basically, like, hell would basically break loose. Nothing would get done in a short period of time where time is of essence. Another thing is that government has also mentioned about how people don't care about politics and how the media has the initiative to become accurate, all these type of things. And let me just say that it is exactly the reason why we have a government in the first place. People don't care about politics, which is why we have a government. Because a government cares about politics. They care about what happens, which is why they make the decision, so the people don't have to care for them. And another thing is that if all these people like make decisions, you can execute a wait, hold on for a moment. So sorry. And another thing is that we are not saying that you can achieve anything that the people want without a referendum. If all of these issues were that important, you wouldn't even need a referendum. It would be so important to the point that the government basically has to notice it, right? There are many other ways out of the referendum to ensure that the people are heard. You don't have to use a referendum, and especially in this dangerous method. Which yes, which is and which is why since people don't know what's best for them, and which is why there's a government in the first place. Oh yeah, and if so many people don't care about politics, then who is going to vote in the who's going to vote in the referendums? Political apathy cannot be solved by forcing people to play a bigger role. So in the end of the day, there's no point in a referendum in the first place, making government's point pretty much invalid. So yes, for all these reasons, I'm very proud to oppose, sorry.
Speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 25 seconds. I now invite the Deputy Prime Minister to deliver their speech.
Could I have like a minute to organize my points, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister, are you ready?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Starting, okay, I would prefer verbal POIs, please. Thank you. Yeah. Starting in 3, 2, 1. So today, right, all we hear from opening opposition is that, oh, people voting doesn't matter because they're stupid, right? They tell us that, oh, people are stupid. They're going to make a stupid decision. First of all, we have already told you why this is very unlikely because we have transparency on our side. And I'm going to start off my speech by giving out the rebuttals. Now, first of all, opening opposition starts off by telling us that they want stability. If your side wants stability, right, would you even support autocratic leaders that use this excuse of stability to deny free and fair elections? I don't think so. I don't think the people on your side will support the government once they realize this is what your side is doing, right? And then they tell us that people don't know what's best for them, right? They voted for the government. Then you tell me that people don't know what decision is best for them, but you also tell me that the people voted for the government. So I don't see then how the government is something good for them then, right? So I don't think that this problem is something that should be ignored. They should address this problem because if people don't know what's best on their side, it's a very harmful problem. Well, that will affect their side because your side chooses to not educate your people about these issues. The entire reason a referendum exists is because we need people to be aware of these issues. A referendum allows people to learn more about these issues that exist in their own country and then allow them to vote afterwards. If people aren't aware of such issues on opposition side, it is a problem that will harm them ultimately. I think it is unrealistic for opposition to say that we should not have referendums just because people are unaware of these issues or just because they don't know what's best for them. Do you really think, like, during Brexit, do you think people don't even know about the issue and just simply voted? Remember that the motion is about change that already over 50% of the people have petitioned for. I expect that the people will definitely be aware of these issues. And even if they weren't, right, there will definitely be a lot of sources online for them to research and look into to be more aware. And as my previous speakers already told you, the media has a less of an incentive to give you false information. They have more of an incentive to actually fact check the information online so that they will not appear to be biased and so people will actually make the fair decision, right? And then they tell us, right, that why are people making decisions for the government? They might make stupid decisions. My previous speaker has already explained to you how there is less likely, there's less chance of stupid decisions because we already have transparency on our side. And even if there are indeed stupid decisions, right? Stupid decisions are a byproduct of democracy, but there can also be good decisions, right? Opposition hasn't proven to you why just because of some stupid decisions that will be made or some hypothetical stupid decision that will be made, people should lose their right completely to check on their government. They have not explained to us why just because of these hypothetical stupid decisions that might happen, they must lose the right completely. And because they cannot address this fact, I think that they completely loses out on their argument. And then they tell us, right, that we are already voting every 4 years, and these politicians already represent the minorities. And they tell us that it's not fair to say that all minorities are being ignored. You already said it is the minority. Then what incentive does your side offer for the government to even try to change when the vast majority is not even aware of these problems, right? So they tell you that people don't care about these issues, but they already demonstrated that they do care to some extent because already more than 50% of the people have petitioned for change before the referendum happened. So this proves that there are people who care and there is already more than 50% of people who care. And thus, we believe that their side does not stand at all. So our side, right, for our arguments, First of all, our side has the strategic ability to push forward even when the political system is against us, because we force a referendum to happen. We compel the government to have a referendum once over 50% of the people petition for change. We have the impact is right. Politicians need to save their political capital for the referendum that will happen, but they need this political capital to fight off the referendum too, perhaps maybe if they're on the opposing side. So this means that they have to save their political capital. A referendum, right? You cannot make certain statements, so there's no need to worry about politicians putting on a facade or propaganda happening. For example, anti-immigration. It's a known fact that Trump is like anti-immigration. So even if he steps up and gives you a structured argument on why we should be anti-immigration, people are less likely to believe him because it is less persuasive, and people already perceive it as biased because of his previous stance on the issue, and thus propaganda is less likely to happen on our side. So the outcome, right, is when referenda exist, people like politicians, they won't make bad statements because they want to try to appear neutral. They don't want to look biased at all because they need to reserve their political capital for referenda that might happen. And these referendums, right, they are neutral, so they have to save their political capital. So we have already told you, right, media is less likely to propagate bad views because they want to prevent themselves from being seen as biased in a neutral referendum. So we can protect the minority because the voting won't be prejudiced and the decision reached is to everyone voting as a whole. It's a majority vote, right? So now we want to tell you, secondly, the importance of people support in today's debate. The government needs people support. Who is the one supporting the country? It's the people. Then how are you not even giving them the rights to choose to make the decision when this decision involves every single person in that country and will impact them the most, right? The country will be more united on our side because that particular change, that particular issue is changed from the bigger vote, from the majority vote. The country is able to display a united front because the people of the country reached the decision of this change together through the referendum, which I repeat is a majority vote. Understand that the main burden of today's debate, right, is which side is able to, one, achieve more support from the people, two, achieve more change, and three, achieve more awareness. We can do all these three things, and maybe side opposition might be able to actually they can't do any of these three things. So because they can't do any of these three things, they are unable to take today's debate. When our side, we give people the right to vote, it sends out the message that every single person in the country matters. Thus, the government is able to gain more support for the people because the people know that the government cares about their opinions, and thus the country will actually be more stable on our side compared to side opposition, right? And bad, we want to tell you, right, is that bad decisions exist no matter what, but there are also good decisions as long as opposition cannot prove to you why several bad decisions will outweigh these good decisions. We believe that our side definitely takes this debate, and that is the end of my speech. Thank you very much.
Speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 34 seconds. I now invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver their speech.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so starting off, I would like to bring about two clashes of today's debate. Which side of the House better represents the minority? And secondly, which side of the House allows for better government? So firstly, I would like to say that minority is always being disregarded in any society, regardless of any political system. Opening government makes this problem worse by not giving governments the incentive to even care about the minority. Because recognize that when you have a referendum, it's very easy for the government to say, I gave them the right to choose and now my job is done. It makes things so much more convenient for the government because the people are making the decisions for them. And because of that, it reduces their duty as government. And then comparatively on our side, we force the government to continue to try to engage with minority, where such engagement is more meaningful as the government can enact real-time change. Also, remember to say that opening government can achieve in this debate is not mutually exclusive. It doesn't take a referendum to enact such change. We can achieve it in a less disruptive manner. And also, opening government was very dismissive as they never rebut any of our point.
the propaganda media things are all irrelevant. And also on to the fact about propaganda and transparency. If the government is putting in so much effort to bring about transparency and make sure that there's no propaganda to affect the opinions of the citizens, it already shows you how much the government doesn't trust the people's that people will make the best choices if you think that they are so susceptible to these kind of objectives in the media. And also, so we don't think that when you vote in referendum, you are suddenly unbiased. And also, my first opposition has told you that people are more emotionally charged, especially people who are unhappy with how they are and they would like to bring about change. And therefore, that's why they would bring about this referendum. And that's why all these people are more emotionally charged. And if people are emotionally charged, what makes you think that they will be unbiased? They already have such a strong feelings towards one side. What makes you think that they will be unbiased now that they have this referendum and they can vote? Wouldn't, if you were being able to suddenly create a new law and it's something that you have always wanted, wouldn't you be more likely to want to vote, not because it's for the greater good, but it's because of your own benefits? What we're saying here is that the government here has a greater overview. No POI, sorry. And what we're saying here is that government here plays a very big role because government has a better overview of society in general. And also, proposition side keeps saying that, oh, if we let them vote, we are giving them the chance to engage with politics and all that. But if you really want, but then in status quo today, especially in Singapore, citizens can still contribute really, really constructive feedbacks for the government through this house talks where the government will walk around and actually communicate with the citizens to know about their situation, etc. If people would just be given the chance to vote, do you think the government would walk around asking people, hey, is your life doing okay? Is the job okay? Is the housing okay? No, they would not. And also, it makes things less convenient for the government, and it gives the government no POI, and it pressurizes the government to take more responsibility for the people. Oh, so it wouldn't make things convenient for the government. And therefore, it shows that the government side, the proposition side, is making things convenient for the government in their world. Wait, sorry. And in propositions world where people are just given the rights to vote, it makes it very convenient for the government to solve issues, and it reduces the role of a government. What is a okay? So proposition side has said that what is a country without its citizens? However, what is a country if it doesn't have the stable environment? And we feel that government can bring about this stability. Also, in democratic countries like Singapore, we are given a chance to vote for who? People that we feel like would represent us well in the government. We are voting for people that we have trust in, and it happens every 4 years. So even if something were to go wrong, we can still vote again in another 4 years. And this might be a tedious process of waiting for 2 years, but this government, they walk around to ensure that the well-beings of these citizens are being taken care of.
POI.
No POI. Okay, lastly, I'll talk about how opening government cannot assure us that people can make the right decisions for their country, even if we take OG at its highest, as say they know what's best for their immediate society. It is impossible for them to know what's best for their country's geopolitical positions, their financial reserves, and their financial systems. Therefore, defense systems, sorry. And therefore, it makes the job of government even more important in our world. Therefore, as the political athletics would never have the incentive to vote either ways, and that I have proven to you that people cannot be trusted to make the right decisions, we are very proud to oppose.
Speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I now invite the member of government to deliver their speech. Here.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kanchana and I am a member of government. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So let's just start off with a couple of things. Yeah, I'd just like to start off by saying that government's duty is to serve the people and provide the people what they want, not the other way around, like the LO said, where the government makes a decision for the public based on what they think is right. As after all, the public is the one that picked the political party to lead the country. So shouldn't they be listened to as well? Also, I'd like to add, there is not many ways for people to have a say in the government, like the DLO said. There is not many ways for them to have a significant say in the significant decisions that the countries make apart from voting in a referendum. And yes, you may say that they can vote in another 4 years when there's another general election. But isn't 4 years a long time? A lot can happen in 4 years. An example we can look at here is Trump. He did a lot of things in just 4 years. He eliminated Obamacare, he pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal and basically started sanctioning Iran, which, if I may add, nearly started World War III. And also, he also put a pause on immigration and caused a lot of families disruption, especially in the Mexican border, and also wanted to build a wall from Mexico, bordering Mexico and United States. So I don't think the people have a much say in government significant decisions in this day and age without a referendum. Now I'll move on to my points. Now, a direct democracy where the people vote for themselves is more representative than politicians voting for the country. Now, what I mean by this is that politicians and governments are more likely to be caught lobbying. And when I say lobbying, I mean create opportunity for corruption and etc. More of them will be bogged down by bureaucracy to delay bills. Not right now. Also, a lot of gerrymandering will happen. And a lot of gerrymandering will be quite prominent in these places. What I mean by this, so for an example of this actually is when political parties cut up districts and put their representatives in different districts so that they are more likely to win there, and they're in return more likely to win a presidential election or a general election. Now, if they break up their representatives and do this, right, if they break up their representatives and do this, right, don't you think this is a form of way for them to just kind of win the election? I mean, these things are very prominent if you do not let the people vote for what they want, because in return, you're giving the government space to make whatever decisions they like and whatever decisions they want. So won't this be seen as, so if you were allow the people to vote for themselves, won't this be seen as a more democratic and a better way to represent a country? Won't this also reduce the risk of corruption and also increase transparency? And like I said before, it will reduce gerrymandering that can happen in countries. I will take your POI now.
No. Okay, so if whatever you said in your rebuttal is true, that in status quo people feel so oppressed without referendums, then wouldn't all democracies have failed by now?
Moving on to my next point. Okay, a lot of country democracies are actually very weak, which is why a lot of country democracies are failing. Why? Because a lot of these countries are developing countries. So thank you for bringing up my next point, such as Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar, which we will actually talk about more in as we continue. So the reasons for this is because of a lack of political strength, political strength, the severe corruption and strong ethnic tensions, for example. So these make countries' democracies extremely weak and not very strong, right? So if democracies are weak and you do not give the people who are the main component in a democratic society what they want, what will this sort of thing lead to? That is what I would like to ask the opposition. It would definitely lead to protests. It will lead to different coups, for example. Now, a very prominent example we can look at right now is happening in Myanmar, because the people are unhappy with the current political state in the country. 20,000 people are marching in a protest against the coup that happened in the country. And if people are so unhappy about this is exactly what happens. This will lead to political instability. This will lead to a country being completely divided and will also introduce political unrest. So like the LO said, what is a country without stability? So if the people are the most important component in a democratic society, why not give them the basic right? One second. Why not give them the basic right to vote and give them what they exactly want? Why not do this? I mean, the people are the most important part of a democratic society. They are also an extremely important part because they pick the government. They pick the political party that will lead the country. You are serving the people. That is a government's job. It is not the other way around, like I said as my introduction. It is not the other way around. It is extremely important that the people are on board with the government's idea, whether or not they support the political party or not. It is extremely important that the government and the political party that is currently leading the country is on the same side. I will take your POI now, please.
Okay, so if such countries are already so weak, won't giving people a surge of power result in the entire destruction of stability? Do you think, for example, a referendum in Myanmar now will suddenly result in stability?
No, because there is already political instability and there's already political unrest. A referendum will prevent this. That is what I am trying to say. So what I meant by my point is that a lot of country democracies are weak because of the things that happen in between the government, because of the corruption that happens between the government, because of ethnic tensions that the government might impose on the people. If we look at this, the Rwandan genocide is a very good example of ethnic tensions that was put on the people. The government led the people to sanction a genocide. So my point is that a government is extremely important and they are extremely important in making decisions for the country. So the government has to be on board with the people so the country is stable and so the country does not land into political unrest. In conclusion, I would like to say that democracy will always win in any state or matter, and the most significant choices a country makes should always definitely be left to the people, as they are, like I said, the one in majority will be affected by a certain decision the government makes. They are the ones that will face the repercussion of any significant decision a government will make. So isn't it important that the government makes a decision that is tailored to the people, that suits the people on a majority scale, that makes the people happy and doesn't lead to political instability, unrest, and etc. The most important thing for a stable country, or even from a developing country to move to a developed country, is political stability. And I believe that our side of the motion really represents that. I am proud to propose. Thank you.
Speaker spoke for 7 minutes. Now I would like to invite the member of opposition to deliver their speech.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Can you give me a sec? I need to go back through my points.
Bye-bye.
Okay. In the opening houses, we've seen that both houses have been debating on the foundation of whether the democracy for the society, a direct democracy, is better or is better than the democracy, that the system of democracy that we have in status quo. However, we believe that in closing houses, especially our team, especially closing opposition, we believe that there are more things that need to be debated other than the betterment, under the benefits or the harms of direct democracy in today's debate. So before I move on to my arguments and characterizations, let me rebut a few points coming from the member of the government. So first, member of the government has said that in their argument, they have stated that democracy is harmful in our world. because when we don't allow people to petition for these referendums, we are opening a floodgate of corruptions coming from the parliaments, coming from the executive branch, coming from the legislative branch, even coming from the judiciary branch of the government. So we refute that argument simply because that the very basis of democracy is to represent people, right? We see that this member of parliaments actually represent the constituencies, and this allow for a smooth process of democracy, even though it seems unstable, but it is actually working, and it is better rather than direct voting, which the government is defending today. So why we say that? Why we say so? Because when we allow direct voting, such as petitioning for referendum, which bypass the parliament, because parliament has the power to enact certain referendums, right? When we allow citizens to petition for referendums, it will allow more instability. Why? Because when the government side said that our side will have much more instability because of the corruption, because of the minorities and majorities, or whatever that the opening houses are debating, we see that government side, when they allow direct voting for petitions for referendums, right? People have the majority and minority uh, division, which means that people from majority, people from minority will then create an instability because they don't want this kind of petition to pass through to make a referendum. So secondly, we see that the power of society in debating issues is better because under our side, we have a better representation of society where they can still vote for the ministers and members of parliament themselves. This is much more fairer because it creates a balance of powers between state and society. More on later, I will prove this under my argument. So as a closing opposition, we're going to extend opening's case and provide a clearer characterization since we don't see any clear characterization coming from opening opposition. So first, we see that in this motion, we have four different type of stakeholders. We have the government or the state, we have the parliament or the society, and we have the referendums. So the government acts as the caretaker of the citizens, where they care of the welfare of the citizens. These are the incentive of the government in the first place. Secondly, we say that parliaments are the places where MP enacts referendums, which means that their roles are to represent citizens in legislative affairs, in affairs to enact laws or bills or whatever. And then we have society. Society actually holds the power in our side because in our case, because they have the power in voting their members of parliament, which means that their roles they have the voice, and the voice is given to them. And last but not least, the referendums where citizens vote for an important issue. I think everybody knows this. So move on to the arguments. We say that parliament is the check and balance for the government, right? I have to make it short. So the major problem coming from the stakeholders today is that we see that all stakeholders are involved in all stakeholders have the problem when we allow this kind of motion and policy to pass, right? First, because when we give society the direct voting power to enact referendums and stuff like that, they get basically the power that they gave during general elections will be useless because then there will be no reason to vote MPs to represent them. Secondly, we see that parliament will lose a huge power in legislative issues because although we know that parliament are a place for check and balance for the executive government, where executive branch is the caretaker of the citizens. Basically, executive government is the government, okay? Right. So when parliament cannot enact referendums, what is going to happen is that they're going to lose power in legislative issues because they cannot do the check and balance for the decisions, right? For example, in any society as large as diverse as that in the United States, what is the chance of that everyone will ever happily agree or at least peacefully accept decision on major issues? This is where the scenario coming from US helps strengthen our case today, our arguments today, because this is where the power of parliament comes in. Last but not least, what are the outcomes of today's debate? We say that the effects that comes with the argument, with the harms if the policy were to be enacted, right? We see that MP would lose its power in check and balance of the government. Secondly, we say that society will not receive intended welfare that has been proposed by policymakers in the government, in the executive branch and the legislative branch, i.e. the parliament, and basically the ministries are there. So, and last but not least, the effects is that the system of democracy will be disrupted, which means that all of these problems are true in our side, where we see that the harms are staggeringly dangerous if we were to allow this policy. Last but not least, what have I proven to you in today's debate? We see that I have proven to you that the power comes with allowing petitions to enact referendums will cause greater harm than good. And we have proven to you that the effects, the tangible, intangible effects that comes with it are staggeringly dangerous. And last but not least, we believe that the side of government, uh, we believe that our team, our house should win the debate today. With that, thank you.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 2 seconds. I now invite the government whip to deliver their speech.
Yeah, 1 minute, just a quick thought. Yeah. I prefer my POIs verbally, and I will start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, OO said that that a minority will always be a minority, but at least with a referendum, it also includes the minorities to take part and gain rights over what they want in a country. But referendums are already stated that they are for important issues. So the people would be aware of such an important issue and will be able to decide accordingly, as the problems would most likely affect the public more than the government itself. So the public will distinctively know what needs to be done. So that's why we should allow public to directly vote. And OO also said that there will be stupid decisions that will be made by the public. But even the government may make stupid decisions, and it's just a byproduct of democracy. But overall, at least the people will be satisfied. Okay. OO also said that a referendum would not get the government to walk around people and ask about their lives. Also, I need to mention that Singapore is a small country, but OO contradicted their own statement by saying this, as wouldn't the government walk around asking people about their lives be more time consuming in the long run than processing a referendum that could conclude a huge issue on the spot that affects the entire country? And now on to CO. CO said that direct voting will enact more instability because minorities would not want a referendum because they're divided from society. But what proof are you to assume that a minority would not want something bad to change to good in a country that they're living in? As the minority would most likely be the group of people who are affected by the proposed problem the most, as they are the ones that are treated the most unequally, and they are the ones that are unhappy. What do you assume that they would not want to vote on something better in the country they're living in? And also, different governments are different political parties, so they support different things and have different political views. Example, Republicans and Democrats. So the government might not always make a decision that serves the people or give them what they want. No, thank you. Wow. This may cause political unrest or instability, and like the LO said, what is a country without instability? Sorry, without stability. Yeah, I'll move on to my points. Referendums should be allowed on any issue if more than 50% of the society already agrees upon it. As more than 50% is an overwhelming majority. If already more than half of a party wants an issue to be voted democratically, the government should fulfill the request of the public, as what is the government without the people? What is a country without the people? And as the government is nothing without people to support it, as referendums are only summoned for important issues that require the opinion of people to accept or deny the issue, as the society does not only contain a single entity or human. No, thank you. As what I mean, as no matter what, the government is still under the command of the Prime Minister. So majority of the decision would also be made by one person if you look at it from a wider view. And it contains a group of people to decide on an issue. It contains many people that have different opinions, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. This will allow a very non-biased democratic vote amongst people. And as the link to why a referendum would be a much better way of deciding with a critical issue, rather than say a prime minister if the majority of the society decides it's necessary to do so. As you only the prime minister deciding on an issue, no thank you. As we only the prime minister deciding on an issue, it will contradict and compromise a lot. As you might say, the prime minister has more experience, but nothing beats the perspective and the view from a group of people with, like what I said before, different experiences and backgrounds. As our side, we will be able to benefit the society and overall other parties tremendously. As a referendum is decided whether it's necessary or not by the nation, including the minority, which makes it a fair vote for everyone in a nation. A referendum are also really transparent. It's fair, it's clean. There wouldn't be any bribery, corruption, etc. It's a very, very low chance, and it's a democratic way to decide. And the people of a country are king. People deserve the right to petition and a referendum, as the government would be nothing without the people. If the people are satisfied, overall, the positivity, the economy will increase drastically in a country. So in our world, we pursue to be aware of our people's opinions so that we will overall, no thank you, so that we will overall have a better country. A referendum also allows people to be aware of what issues are happening to react accordingly, as the media also have less of an incentive to provide false information, but instead fact checks. And politicians and the government will also be prominent to pursue corruption to promote themselves to win in, let's say, a voting. And this is also giving the space for the government to do whatever they want. A lot of countries have very weak democracies as well. This is because of the lack of political strength in a country. So everything would lead to protest and anger and overall just a downfall for a nation. And this is because the government decides everything. So we have to make sure, no thank you. So we have to make sure the people are on board with the government's decision. Like the Myanmar protest occurred from the lack of a referendum. So a referendum prevents those unnecessary issues like protests. No, thank you. In conclusion, our House supports to run a referendum on any issue if more than 50% of the society petitions for it. I am proud to propose. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 8 seconds. I now invite the opposition whip to conclude the debate.
Am I clear?
Yes, you are.
Hello? Okay. As the final speaker of today's debate, I would like to conclude today's debate and give out the clashes that each team has given out. First of all, I would like to rebut a few points coming from the side of opening government. The Prime Minister stated that every single person matters, that the voice of every single person matters. Well, to that I say more than 50% of these people voted for the referendum, and only that vote of the majority will pass. And then this leaves out the minority, those who are less than 50%. And this will cause what we call a majority tyranny. Now, what is majority tyranny? As explained by my first speaker, I will further extend it to when the majority controls what happens and ignores the minority. These minorities are defenseless and aren't catered to. Justice isn't brought to them under their side of the world. And then next, inequality exists under this thing. Unfairness within society exists. Now what happens under our side of the world? These educated MPs or member of parliaments will cater to all of the stakeholders and make decisions that are the best for their citizens. Now, how are we ensuring this? Through elections of MPs. If citizens aren't satisfied with the choices and decisions made by these particular MPs, we can elect another person when the time has come. And then secondly, the Prime Minister also stated that not only the Prime Minister, all of the people from the government side has stated that media is always true and will fact check all of the news that is portrayed in the media. Well, this is so that we simply say this is most definitely not true because of media manipulation. Because media only shows what they want to show, what they want people to see. And what do they want to show? Breaking headlines. They won't show something important if it does not contain some controversy in it. Because little viewers do actually care about news that does not contain controversy. And then why does this matter? Because how will the citizen make choices if they don't even know what, even when they don't even know most of what will happen due to their choices, the circumstances of the decision that they make. And then lastly, about the Prime Minister, they stated that a country is its citizen. And to that we say that a country is its citizen and its leader. Because a country without a leader is just an unorganized group that won't progress anywhere. Why is this true? Because there are many things to cater to in progressing a country. The citizens only know so much about the politics, economy, social, and international relations. And educating 50% of or more of the citizens just won't work. Not everyone has the capability to learn these things. Not only that, in the parliament, there are check and balance systems to ensure that these decisions made by the MPs are reasonable and logical. These decisions are evaluated before passing on. Meanwhile, in a referendum, there is no check and balance systems. Whatever the majority of society wants to vote for, no matter how bad the outcome of that decision may be, will be passed on. All in all, a leader is definitely required in order to progress the group. Moving on to the Deputy Prime Minister. They stated that people don't know, if people don't know what's best for them, then why vote for their leaders? Well, in voting for our leaders, we do not actually need to know all the things necessary in ruling a country. We do not need to know all the laws, all the outcomes of our decisions. And when we vote for these leaders, we vote for these leaders because of that person's or party's ideology and beliefs. The people believe that this particular leader can change the country for the better. Society does not directly know what to do or to make the society do not know what to do to make the country a better place. What laws to pass, what financial decisions to make, how to handle international affairs, etc., etc. And this is why a leader is most definitely required in order for society to progress. And then the Deputy Prime Minister also stated that a majority will always be the best. Well, this is simply not true. Not all of those 50%, more of those 50% of people are educated on the matters at hand. Not everyone knows what is happening in the country and what are the outcomes that will happen if they make these decisions in the referendum. Most of these people are less educated on important matters compared to these MPs whose whole purpose of their job is to study these kinds of matters and finding ways to solve them. And then moving on to the Deputy Leader of Opposition. They stated that minority will always be neglected. They stated this, but they barely explained on why is this so. So we'll explain that. Why will minorities will always be neglected? Because in a democratic system, there are always the majority and the minorities. If the majority wins, then the voices of these minorities will be ignored. And then when we agree to that minority will always be neglected, but why is it less harmful under our side? Why is it less harmful under the side of closing opposition? Because these minorities can voice out to the MPs, to the members of parliament, and are more likely to be listened to and to be catered to, because there is a proper channel or medium for these minorities to voice out their opinions directly to the MPs. Under their side, the voice of minorities are overshadowed by the majority due to majority tyranny. And then moving on to the member of government, but before that, yes.
Your side already said that it is the minority. So what incentive do you offer for the government to even actually care what the minorities are saying, since no one will know about these minorities actually talking to the parliament people?
As I stated before, these minorities can voice out to the members of parliament, to the government servants about their opinions, about the unjustification that they are undergoing through. When under your side of the world, where these minorities are overshadowed by the voices of majorities, where this majority won't even listen to, won't even hear what these minorities are saying, because they are minorities, because they believe that the majority is the best idea, because your side believes that majority is the best option. And I already stated that there will be proper channels and mediums for this minority to reach out to the leaders of a country. And then moving on to the members of government. They stated a point about Trump and why and what happens when under our side of the world, the worst case scenario that will happen under our side of the world. Well, to that we say, why is he elected in the first place? Because majority of the people voted for him. Majority, which means more than 50% of these people. Then under your side of the world, how is this any different from referendums? This majority with the same ideology will still cause the same trouble for the country. The country do not know what's the best course of action to take as a whole. Furthermore, if you are unsatisfied with a leader or a party that leads your country, you can vote for a new leader within 4 years. But if a society is uneducated or blinded by something, there's nothing that can be done since you cannot vote for a new society. Other moving on to another point that is stated by the member of government, is that government should always listen to the citizens. And to that we say the government is a leaders. Leaders know what more about to do in a particular field they are leading in this case, a country. And what have we proven to you today? We've proven to you that every voice matters, that we cater to every stakeholder, including the minority. We have proven to you that a country without a leader is just an unorganized group that won't progress anywhere. We've proven to you that majority's choices on a specific matter aren't always the best choices. And what did we do different from opening opposition? They merely give statements without thoroughly explaining why those statements are true. And we also have given to you an entirely new idea under the key phrase of the harms of majority tyranny that will occur on the outside of the government. And with that, I have never been prouder to oppose. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 56 seconds. Okay, thank you everyone for that wonderful debate. I now invite everyone to go back to the main meeting room while me and the panel deliberate. Thank you.